connections with Concentric, and it's Saturday night here in Tbilisi. Um, this one, Talita and I are sitting here talking about it, about what to say. Um, you know, I, I'm a fierce optimist, and I believe in this company. It's been incredibly successful. It's going to be successful again. Um, from Telegram to WhatsApp to all the emails to all everything. All we're doing is trying to raise capital. Even this week, I put some of my intellectual property up for sale to support the company, and I know basically I'm just going to stand here and, relatively speaking, from every angle in this entire organization, there's a few of you out there that are part of this team that are incredibly supportive, and you see the vision. You know who you are. Basically, though, an overwhelming majority of people all around are coming after me pretty hard, and all I can tell you is that I haven't changed. I've been committed to this organization really my entire adult life. It really began back in college when I saw just learn some engineering skill sets to go solve some of these resource challenges, and I've tried in this couple years. I knew it'd be hard. Dennis Backey told me it'd be hard anyway, just kind of getting any of this going. But I knew it'd be really tough because we had to start over financially, and I just said, well, we got great science. That's the rare thing, and it's gotten even better. The Dariel 360 patent really is the holy grail. Um, I think the bottom line here is that we as an organization are doing everything we can with every cent we get to raise money, to go after raising capital. And we're in negotiations all the time. People say, how many aid? I mean, it's all over. We need help. I think that's the biggest message I want to kind of give out, is that, we need contacts and connections. I made the mistake, of thinking that the concepts would sell themselves. The world needs electricity, water, food. You read about it in the headlines everywhere. We've got technologies that have been proven to make that better and more efficiently and cost effectively than anyone in the world. And I still think that's a good story. Yeah, there's a financial disconnect. We got robbed last decade. That so what? There's a whole finance industry of lenders, venture capitalists, angel investors, that their role, why they're there, is to go put money into things. It's not like that's some obscure thing to go talk to people. Hey, come be a partner with me. That's, if you look into everything we're asking people, it's not give us money so we can just go have money. It's saying partner with us so we can go build infrastructure that the world needs and earn profits from it and share those profits with you and other people. It's called business. And I just got gaslit again in another conversation with somebody. I'm not going to say who it was, but I'll say where they're from. It was an African man living in America in the finance industry. And I'll tell you, our background is, that's where a lot of this international work for us started, was seeing things that were needed in Kenya and Uganda. And fundamentally, what my brother even took a bullet for was our love for Africa. So we're having African people simply just tell us that they're just afraid that they would, if they went out and raised the money, that we would just leave with the money. And that's been like 4 weeks in a row. That's the whole topic of the conversation. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be gaslit by this anymore. We're a duly registered company with corporate ID numbers, apostille certifications. Everything's registered. We're there. I mean, we are in the hunt. We are a real corporation with real intellectual property. I've got blood, sweat, and tears in this. My family members have been murdered over it. I mean, we're a survival story, bringing real answers to real people living with them. And so when we get gaslit by people over and over and over and over and over again, and this is what's happening in financing, they just say, well, how do you know it's real? Well, what do you even know is real? I mean, have you seen, go to some of our plants? Anybody anywhere in the world who's come to any of our power plants is a partner with us now. We just got taken off the playing field for 13 years. We just watched this afternoon. It's Saturday. We watched a cool film version of Count of Monte Cristo. And it's kind of funny because 13 years was Joseph, and then 13 years was that guy in that movie, and then that's what I did too. And it's maybe a number there. I know there's a better ending than all this, but there's a couple things I do want to read here. I got an hour. I'm not. Talita said, "Why don't you just be optimistic?" And just that's what sets us apart. We are, and that won't change. I mean, it's not going to change anything, but and ultimately, this is a message of hope. You know, I get criticized for being optimistic. Simon Sinek does too. I'll tell you. I want to read a couple things, and I'm not making an excuse, and I'm not. I'm really not. I mean, I accept responsibility for it. And one reason we went out and gave away the company through the blockchain, which, by the way, we've given it all away. We don't even own any of the tokens anymore. It's all gone. It's crazy. I mean, I just want to sell, like what you do in this market in the world is you sell rights to your company, profit rights, so that you can raise money to go build your company. And I did a really bad job of that. Babe, they're saying they can't hear me. Hopefully that's better. I'm taking that off. Maybe the battery is dead on that. Is that any better now? Thanks for the messages. I didn't get those. But so hopefully that's better. I'm at 8 minutes. I'll just kind of wait and see. I had a microphone in that was supposed to make it better, but I think the battery was down, I guess. So I'm just kind of back to the iPhone here. So can't really hear me still. Just a second. Hey, I've got audio problems here. This isn't working, and I'm trying to make this work. So I don't know how to troubleshoot that. I'm getting a bunch of messages saying they can't hear me. I've taken the microphone off now. Yeah, I know. I think maybe the battery's out. We'll get this figured out. Hold on a second. I'm going to kind of see what we'll do here. I'll try to work this. I apologize again. I mean, we're aware of it. We're aware that we need all kinds of multimedia things to be better. And, in that extent, I'll just kind of share with anybody who wants to listen or is listening to any of this that I'm the wrong guy to be doing this, I came out with nothing. I had 17 cents left. A brother of mine was murdered. It was hell. Last decade was hell. And we came out and said, we're going to love the world anyway, and we're trying to build an army for that. And we know we've got some. And I know everybody wants results, and all I can tell you is we're doing all we can. We're talking to everybody, everywhere we can about raising capital for this business. And I can tell you the general tone and tenor, at least with the responses to me, is that if you ask people for money, their number one reason that they don't do it is because you need money. So it's a catch-22. If you come in looking for money to do something it's held against you that you need money to do something. It's a really dysfunctional place, and we're trying to get through that. You know, I thought a lot of this stemmed from the blockchain. We thought that would be a place that people could kind of throw that out and say, you know what, we don't have to be, um, we don't have to be so cynical and jaded. I'm going to try to see if anybody can hear me at all now. I should be good here. Just a second. Let me I'm going to try to get, oh boy. You know, guys, I mean, I know it's easy to put bullet holes in Concentric in the way we're executing everything. We're running on no budget. I mean, here's the cat out of the bag. Nobody's had payroll since our reinception. Nobody's making money here, okay? And we've had people curse at us and say, you don't have any money. And it's like, yeah, we know. Tell us something we don't know. And we're gonna pay dividend. All that stuff's gonna happen. We've done all this before. We built all kinds of plants. I mean, the world needs them more than ever. And we get told that since we have answers to the problems, people don't understand that because they're so busy fighting the problems, you know, and we're trying. I mean, we're watering stuff down. We're making the pro forma look as bad as possible, you know, but we've talked about it, the polymathism. We just take waste heat and waste emissions from power plants and use it for really cool stuff, like making algae, which then can be synthesized into graphene. Or we take waste heat and run on aquaponics. And when we make those other products, they're worth more than the electricity to begin with, okay? Simple math. We think that's a pretty good deal to be pollution-free and make more money. I can tell you right now that, especially in the United States, they get a bullet in your head on it. And it's starting to, that just saturates. You know, you talk to people from other countries, like this gentleman from Africa who's in the United States, and it's the same dribble poison. It's the same toxic poison. You're good at what you do, and you have a proven track record, so therefore we have to attack you and gaslight you and assault you. And yeah, I'm upset. I told the guy who made that referral, I said on an anger scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about 10 trillion. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm just gonna lay that out. I just said, be optimistic. This is my optimism. Because sometimes you gotta take the gloves off and be upset about it, because I'm upset about it. Because we're the solution, and we get dumped on by the world saying we're the problem, and we're not. I'm not gonna take it that we're the problem. We have invested everything. If you wanna look back in time of what we've done, this corporation, we've invested into this company over $100 million. Actual stuff we bought at our own to put into play. And then stuff that we've, the money we've even put in here this most recently. You know, I'm talking real investments over that time frame. When I say we've done like $40 million worth of engineering work, that I don't call that an investment yet. That's just sweat equity that's gone in, and it's line items in our project budgets. Let's see, maybe you can tune in and see if you can hear me. Thank you. So we're trying. Maybe it's better if nobody can hear me tonight. I don't know. I think. There's a couple things I just wanted to share with you here is that the Aspian Manifesto, CIPP's culturally independent psychological processing, is that they do not imagine a limit to their possibilities because these persons never clued into the culture limits in the first place. And that I'm guilty of that I just approach the world with a sense of wonder that things can be done. And somewhere in this past decade, while I was going through hell on earth, the world just really got cynical beyond measure, more than I remember. Maybe it's the same. I just got, sometimes when you're just stuck in a metal box, for that long, you just kind of develop a fierce optimism when you come out and things look different. But, we still do have positive discussions. I'm not sure how to report all these things because, it's like we report good news and then it just becomes a thing. Well, did they write a check yet? Because a lot of these developments still take time. You got to make custom proposals. I can tell you that my phone and my computer are like at max memory because I've got so many files and presentations and drawings and everything we're putting together. And that's a good thing. What I tried to say to everybody, I'll say to everyone here, I'm blown away by this. This is a fascinating story. I think a journalist would have a field day with it. I talked for an interview thing that we're doing in the next week or two, kind of a pre-interview discussion yesterday that went really well. Hopefully that'll be publicized here pretty soon. I'll share some details later when I have liberty to. But one of the things that's going on with all that is that you have this whole scenario where you come in with, again, like answers to these problems, and it demands a whole new vocabulary, because people said, well, we didn't, we didn't know that. We didn't even know that was possible. Like, who's even doing that? And then you give support information, and we understand it. When it comes down to, like you said, what are the problems? The problems with our company are exactly what we're aware of. We need money. And when you are in the finance world, it's like it's become just a badge of honor for people to hold that against you. And it's different. And then you can say it's our approach, it's our deal. We've done, I don't even know how many, pitch decks, different information. We're updating stuff all the time. The website's too much, too little, too wrong. I mean, it's just everything. And then we go out and there's like people, making, massive amounts of funding from angel and VC investors when they have nothing to show at all. It's almost just like a happy hands club. What was it from, um, what was that on Napoleon Dynamite, right? The happy hand, it's just like people just shoveling millions and billions of dollars at stuff that has no traction. And then we come in and say, no, there's hair on the dog for sure, in a good way. Like, we've got staying power. These technologies work. And what we've done, and part of the discussion, and this is what's hard, we've whittled it down where we have this modular technology now. We don't even need billions of dollars. A $20 million module can roll out enough profits to just pay for the others. So we just need that domino effect to get one deal rolling. And we got contracts all over the place, from Indonesia to England to Europe, Africa, all over, and hundreds more that are, some form of an agreement signed. And they're just like, hey, upon proof of funds, and you guys show you can do, we'll shore more stuff. It's the nature of these developments, they're all there. And we're doing it. I mean, literally, the cool part for this, and some of you've seen some of the information, it's out there. I mean, we've been posting stuff. It's gotten to the point where we have so many sophisticated developments and projects we've looked at. And these are to the level where in the past deals would get funded and you start building and finish out the engineering and, whatever. I mean, it's just the way the things go. Banking used to not be, we'll get it built and running and then we'll fund it for you. That's kind of the mentality now. If you can build your company, build this plant first and have cash flows generating from it, then we'll loan you money to go build the plant. Literally, that's the standard operating procedure now. And the world wonders why nothing gets built. Because then these finance companies will get endowments or funds and they'll move it. What do? They hire a bunch of consultants. So a bunch of consultants get a bunch of jobs and they don't actually build anything. And, it's just kind of mind blowing. China's even pulled out a lot of what they're building. I kind of ran into their vacuum. A lot of our developments around the world are based on China was looking at stuff, and then for environmental reasons or whatever, they backed out and just left a void. And they did, we can get the basic metrics from what they looked at and said, well, we're twice as efficient and infinitely cleaner because we use up all the BTUs, the kilojoules and whatever, and use up the energy, and we have no pollution. It's just a better business model anyway, but we can go to the sites that they had. So we've done a lot of that, but we're starting to it's gotten so big that we just have maps of continents now where we shade in with the flag of the country, and you can click on it and go to like our most significant proposal in those nations. And we've done that for over 100 countries now. There's only 192 countries in the world. Okay. And we've done all this background work for over 100 of them. And we're going to get the rest. I mean, it's just a matter of churning it through. Some of you might have seen, we've got this metric table now. I did it the other day. I said, this is it. The old Kenny Loggins song I attached to it, because we've got it all boiled down to one spreadsheet now. Coal, oil, gas, garbage, manure, livestock, tires, cement kilns, basically the big industrial entities. We can basically just plug that into the model anywhere in the world and see what the metrics will be. And we can just analyze a country, say what do they have for coal, what do they have for power generation, what do they have for mining. That's what Congo asked us to get involved in too, because everybody needs electricity. It's bad, and we have the cleanest, most efficient ways to do it. And it's just incredible what goes on. The cynicism is if like it's impossible to build a power plant. It's just weird things come back. And so I appreciate, especially on the Telegram group, and I'm kind of in there now looking at stuff, and I appreciate what everybody's kind of dealing with. And I think people want answers. They're like, you guys, you want to know, what are you doing? Yeah, we're doing. It's basically a very limited number of people within Concentric that are working on it full time, and we're doing the very best we can. And I think, for lack of a better phrase, we just don't know the right people. I mean, I'm more than willing to say I'm a jerk. I don't say things right. I use vocabulary. I pronounce things properly. I'm trying to learn other languages. We're doing everything we can. I'm trying as hard as I can to kind of figure out how to relate to people, how to deal with these issues. We've got frequently asked questions. I updated the download links on the website comprehensively in the last several days, just giving people as much as we can. We want people to know. That's what's so hard these days. We want full transparency. I wish everybody knew what I knew, because if you did, people would be charging the gates to go do this stuff. But how do you get that out there? Well, people, I don't understand your language. What's a BTU? What's a kilowatt? How do you make electricity? It just never ends. And that's the thing, is our business model. We're out here trying to get the masses to comprehend it, mainly because why we're doing it. We want to build and cultivate quality of life. But our business plan doesn't need everyone to get it. We need to find one entity in one place anywhere in the world that has the capability for basically the cost of a modest, decent commercial building. Park it with one of our investors in an IOTA, basically a legal escrow account. The IOTA account, I forget what the acronym stands for. It's held there, it's secured, and then basically get it back within one business month, 30 business days. So our question to be that domino effect of Concentric is there any entity anywhere in the world that's willing to park $10 million for a month and get it back under insurance clauses and let us get to work, and then the things will self-fund? We've whittled it down to that, and that should be and you should hear what we hear from people. Well, we're afraid we'd put the 20 million in and you'd run off with it and stuff. It's like, it's in an IOTA account with lawyers in America, and Alliance Insurance out of Munich is behind it. Like, here's the paperwork for it. Well, we've been burned before, and you know what? I've been burned. I challenge anybody right now. This is the whole thing about Concentric. Bring me anybody on earth who's done as much in this industry as I have and who's been burned as bad as I have. I don't run around with a badge of honor like a big deal. I got to be the victim. Who cares? Okay? But it gets to a point where this is the conversation that I say to people. I'm saying to the whole world. Bring me one human being on earth who's been burned alive as bad as I was and who's still in the game here. Don't give me, well, we did this. You know what? Every single project we develop anywhere in the world, we know could be stolen from us. Military action, guy blows it up, whatever. The Bob Woods, one of my late father's partners, he used to say all the time, hey, you run a risk getting out of bed in the morning. Get up and go to work. This thing, since when did the world just, well, I got hurt before. I had family members murdered over my patents. I got to live with that every day. And then I get people coming in saying, well, if we find the funding, you're going to here. What do you want for guarantees? You wonder, like, why are we upset? What are we doing? And I don't know why. I don't, people act like it's a rug pull, whatever. Rug pull what? What is there to rug pull? Yeah, that's just such a stupid comment, because it sets itself up. Companies that don't have any real assets, right? You're just a fictitious thing. And that, unfortunately, the cryptocurrency enabled that, where people can just do that electronically and have an avatar and nobody knows who they are and whatever. So criminal element people kind of ran it that way. Well, I thought to myself, hey, we'll mint a currency backed by our business the way the stock market ran. It'd just be more efficient for that. And you know what? it just got all taken wrong. And I own that. Obviously, I got to live with it because we're still looking. I'm going to read something to you guys here, and this has been something. I'm going to find it. I got interviewed by a Australian guy a few months back. Well, a couple of years ago, actually. I thought it was a cool uh, interview, and it's like a 2-minute read. I'm going to read it, and it was neat because he was kind of saying, "Hey, what kind of it's lessons on leadership." And I'm, it's hard, and I know I'm not taking it. Hopefully, you guys can hear me now. Talita, are you able to hear me on this? Can you still see that? Just check again. Um, no, are you? I mean, okay. Hi everybody. Um, yeah, sorry. I mean, we're just winging it here. We don't know what to do. We're trying to be real, trying to be polished, trying to be whatever. I mean, just totally guessing at what it is the world really wants because in my world, you make investments in business, you extract profits from the operations, and that's the purpose of business. Thank you. Uh, you know, I, I don't. I thought that's just what business was for. You do something good, you provide a good or service to someone else, and you get paid for it, and you earn profits on what you've done, and you reinvest the profits and all of that. And apparently, that just it's not okay. There's like an assumption of gamesmanship or something. And so that's why we just keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling down, saying, no, we're about the all gain sum. We're trying to make everybody win. And people say, well, we're not familiar with that. No one does that. Well, we do. Okay. That's the thing. And at some point, you know what? There's a problem in the world: garbage, sewage, coal. Everyone wants to focus on garbage, and that's fine. We have the only system in the world that can take garbage and sewage and convert it all pollution free. You think that would matter, right? No, but apparently people dying in landfill landslides is acceptable, and those people are all righteous, and it's okay because whoever's not planning to do anything there, they're good, right? Those people are prudent and diligent, and I'm the irresponsible radical one who can't be trusted, right? See that? Where's the metric there? Because you know what? That's a load of crap. You've got world leaders, people all over the world today, living in their own filth, right? Just living in toxic environments, dying young. What was it in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia? I read a statistic after we'd even made the proposals. There's like 400 children a year under the age of 5 die because they can't breathe because of the pollution. Is there anybody in the world with any resources that's going to say, hey, I can fix that and save lives and generate billions of dollars in profits in the process? Sounds like a pretty good deal. But you know what I get? What's your exit strategy? I get this crap out of books, ivory tower, college textbook material, and I got a degree too and a PE license, so I can talk this game. The world is full of educated derelicts who aren't paying attention to reality. And I'm the bad guy because I've got a way to generate profits by saving lives. But that's what we're dealing with. And then I get it. People tell it all over. What are you doing? Where's the money? Where's the money? Who are you talking to? How's it going? We're spending every day and night. I swear to God, you can ask Talita. I'm up 22/7 right now between the West, the East, everywhere. Look, talking to people about funding. And it's one thing or another. How does the technology work? You know what? Who cares how it works? We've got power generation equipment. We've installed. We could build the stuff we were building in the 1980s and it would be profitable today. We just want to do it better. Why? Because it's better. Finally, somebody the other day realized the project up at, he was saying, the architecture side of Copenhagen. Bork Ingels group designed, and it's like a ski ramp in the winter, a grass slope, the roof of the waste energy plant. And it uses the fluidized bed boiler that was our intermediate technology, trying to get on the way to pyrolysis and gasification for garbage, which is the hardest fuel to deal with. So we had advented that fluidized bed boiler setup and part of things like that. And then it's just, but we have no stack now, so we can have a cool rooftop and no stack. We're capturing all the emissions. So there's projects all around the world. That's one of hundreds, thousands, but there's more that needs to be done. And it's weird. Like, it's just bizarre. We do have a lot of cool things going on. There are people showing up. In fact, I want to share this. I'm not going to name the company yet. We're negotiating some, non-disclosure, and I want to be discreet about them. But the graphene market. I'm still looking up this interview from Australia, and I will find it. Hang on. But in the graphene market, one of the things we've had a really challenging time with, I'll be honest, is the world. Graphene was discovered in about 2006, about 20 years ago, by some guys in France, some lab scientists, and they realized that basically instead of burning anything with carbon, the combustion, if you heat it up really fast and for a short time period, it it will recrystallize in a one or few layer graphene is what our process develops, that is stronger and more flexible and more heat resistant and electrically conductive and all these other huge properties spanning multiple industries than anything else in the world ever. I mean, it's awesome. So then the question is, well, how do you get the right type of carbon feedstock, and how do you get something to heat up that fast and then stop? Well, it's hard to do with a flame, obviously, because the flames do propagate. So the ways that it's been looked into this, James Tour calls it flash joule heating. They do with some capacitor, at short burst of voltage for milliseconds stops. Electric arc, like an electric arc furnace, that's the technology that has come into our path, and we've partnered with people in bringing that together. It's awesome. It's the first and only way in the world to synthesize graphene from everything with carbon on huge scale. And I'm going to share a statistic here in a second. And I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing this up, because graphene, the question to ask about graphene is, who do you sell it to? And let's go, how can we cultivate these markets? To cultivate a market and expand it, you got to know what the market is. And so you look into it. And this is why we got bullish on it. Because what happened is, in the graphene market, the people who've kind of developed any of it at all have been the the people that have um, done it in laboratories, where it's kind of like a controlled environment where you have the perfect ingredients coming in, and then you're doing it in a lab environment where you have all the right conditions. And even one of the leaders in that, James Tour, and their group up in Toronto called what is it, Universal Matter, I think, or something like that, up in Toronto, and they're working to get their setup to do 1 ton a day of production. And we've had a commercial system for years now with empirical data and everything that can make 4 to 8 tons a day in one unit. And the statistics are that if we have 6 of our units installed, we won't just this modular plant single unit, 6 of them installed. And what do? They convert garbage, coal, wood, any kind of feedstocks into energy more efficiently, because it's a more efficient process, taking the syngases out and using them in a combined heat and power system. And we've got aquaponics and everything in there. So leave graphene out. It's just an efficient way to make energy, food, air, and water. Okay. Do that. It's simple. It's just the advanced stuff. It happens that you have a byproduct that's graphene that now is like 1,000 times more valuable than electricity or any of the other components. And it's all pollution free. And so we come in, and if we do 6 of them, 6 of our units, we will not just be the world leader in graphene production, we will eclipse the rest of the world combined. 6. And we have 20,000 units under backlog. Venture capitalists of the world, come on. And this is by a group, an organization that's built 128 power and water systems around the world in our 50-year history, 46 years, whatever, and 100% success rate. Every single plant we've ever done works. There's no theory. We got a few of our patents, and I've mentioned this before. About 16 of them are commercially proven. There's about 8 of them up there that need some R&D. A couple of them are some manufacturing as I get some capital. We don't even talk about them. They're on a list, and they're stuff that's been registered, but we don't even, it has nothing to do with the stuff we're marketing and selling. There's some, and because we want to be comfortable with it. And by then we'll be doing it ourselves anyway and won't even seek funding. This is just a financial restart coming out of this. So we overtake the whole world production of graphene. Well, what do you think that does to the graphene markets? We define them. It's why we're trying to build the factories, and we're doing what like Henry Ford and the Rockefellers and Mellons and Carnegie's did 100 years ago. Except we're doing it with an ethical purpose. We're doing it with an environmental purpose. All these other things, like we're doing it with a good heart to clean up the toxic things from the first stages of the Industrial Revolution. I've talked about, we had the Renaissance and there was the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution. Now it's the resonance to get in tune with how the world works, biomimicry, all these things. That's what we're based on. There's an ethic in there. There's an intelligence to say, let's synchronize and get in sync with how the world works. And that's the ethos we bring. And we're sitting here bogged down and, well, how do we raise capital for it? And that's what we're still stuck with. And that's what I'm talking about. And so I'm doing a lot of introspection. A lot of guys come and say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, I'm really hard on myself. Because see, what people understand is I have a vision for this business. And the book I read says, man without vision will perish, or man with vision will thrive. Okay. And it's hardcore stuff where this whole thing with the vision is becomes so firm that when you go through certain experiences like we did last decade, like I did, where you have to make a decision every day. Do you believe enough in what you're doing to go through with it? And you have to file this down. See, people come in and they want to check out Concentric. I wish you could check it out as much as I have. See, this whole organization, everything about it, every single thing about Concentric Industries has gone through trial by extreme fire that most people in the human race would never even experience. Except, you know what? A lot have. Like you read the book, Carl Hoffman, Lunatic Express. There's billions of people in the world that just hammer their lives out just to get one more piece of bread for a child or something, just barely eking out a living. We're in business to support those people. We want to go into those economies. And Brad Whitaker, thank you. Maybe it was the guys in Liberia. I'm not sure where this idea came from, but instead of just paying people more wages now and disrupting their economy because we'll pay people more, we're doing a thing. We'll pay people a good solid living wage and establish workman community, workers comp, like not compensation, but like community building funds wherever we go and kick profits back in. We're building that into contracts to prove we're doing that. And a lot of people still think, well, you're just saying that to get us to make an investment or something. It's like, no, we're looking for partners. Whatever happened to that? There's this whole mentality that like Concentric's just looking for money so we can what? Just pay rent and live and stuff like. I mean, that's so stupid. I mean, if we're trying to just say, if you could, I mean, it's unreal. This whole concept that that we would be doing this just to like make it up. I mean, the world I come from in this infrastructure work, multitasking, trying to find certain documents, but the what I was saying there about what's happening is that the this whole environment where we're how am I trying to say this? Like there's resolutions to these problems and we're trying to bring them in, and it's like the world just says, well, we've had people say they have resolution to problems and then they didn't follow through and do it. So therefore, like everyone has to be screened like that. And we come in and say, okay, screen us, run the gauntlet. You'll find the only thing we're lacking is money. And that's what's amazing. People going, well, I heard you guys were looking for money and you couldn't follow through on a contract because you didn't have money. It's like, yeah, and we're looking for money. Like we told you that up front. I mean, what do you want to have? It's just weird. It's like we tell the truth and then people say, well, you told the truth that you said you needed money. And, and that's fundamentally where even all you guys in the blockchain, dividends are written into our contracts. You're going to get them. Even I said earlier today in one of the messages, we've got all these millions of dollars, essentially invested into um, our um, engineering work to develop these projects. And that those are real line item budgets. When you do a project and you bring something that has site plans and electrical single line diagrams and some details done on something and it's all kind of put together, those things cost thousands and millions of dollars by the time you're done. And we've done a lot of that up in advance to get some of this stuff ready. really good work on it too. And I know because I've done it. I've won awards for it. And we're doing the same thing. So those will be line items. So when we raise capital to do those projects, it's like, hey, $500,000 of this work's already finished. And that's where like your guys' dividends will come from. A bunch of projects. I told you that. That's like our profit margin or working capital, sweat equity. The money will be there. The scale is there. I'm gonna read this one, and I'm gonna go post this too in the. I guess I'll do it in Telegram, and I'll do it on. I'm going to do this in our WhatsApp team too. I mean, guys, I'm at this point where, I'm trying to give good news. I'm trying to stay optimistic and positive and give work reports, and I don't know what people really want to see. If you saw the nitty gritty of what it takes to develop power plants and stuff. It's why a lot of individuals don't do it. You got to know what you're doing. You got to have to start this at a young age. You don't just fall into things with development. And a lot of people who do development come from a finance background, and they've all kind of left. It's why nothing's getting built. I'm one of these guys who came from an engineering background, and I'm bringing all this in saying, hey, the finance piece will kind of get that figured out. One guy blasted me today, and I love you like a brother, man. You know who you are. And he's saying to me, like, man, you still don't have a CFO? What's wrong with you? He's chewing me out of it. And I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I'm trying. We're trying to get a chief financial officer. He's like, can't you hire somebody, or doesn't anybody in the world want to join forces and come in and figure out how to crack this nut and get funding? We thought we'd get my vision. I thought we'd find a VC or angel guy who says, "Hey, let me bring in $500,000 and buy myself a job. I take 100,000 of that as my salary over the next 12 months, and I'll figure out how to get our funding together." We've got a moving car. I mean, we got branch offices on 6 continents, agreements all over the place. We're talking to government officials. We're doing the whole 9 yards. And you know what? Everybody we talk to, everybody unanimously looks at what we're offering and says, "Man, this will change the world." And then it's the questions, how many have you done? Whatever, 128, and it's next generation. We need capital, and we're doing this and this, and you get dialogue going on. But there's not a human being alive who can't look at what we're offering. And yeah, they can be cynical and say, "How does it work?" Well, do you know how water boils? I mean, let's start with what you do know, and we'll try to explain it in reference. But this stuff works. It's been proven commercially operating. And we're trying to build a business plan around it. Just if it's so good, people would be doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. That's what we're here doing. I mean, everything has to have an inception. We're not asking people to even take that risk. And so we're coming into this saying, hey, you know what? We're going to be that entity. We're going to be the team, the people that are going to make this happen. And that's what we're bringing. And it's like I said, we're looking for that leader. We're looking for somebody to come in and say, yeah, I know the finance world. Let's give me, I mean, realistically, I hear it at least every third day. I will get someone say, oh, the money's out there. You're just talking to the wrong people. I say, okay, I agree. I'll give you 2% residual, like profit mark. You can find us $20 million, you'll get 200 grand. Find us 200 million, you'll get $4 million, 2% commission for a phone call. And those people, well, and this and that, and you got to pay me 30 grand up front. We paid a bunch of them. We've paid brokers and everything, trying to weed them out. It's hard because we're guessing. We're looking for a chief financial officer, somebody from the banking industry who says, you know what? If you have businesses with real proven technology that make energy, food, air, and water at real high profit margins, and you can be a leader in this graphene sector, that just anybody alive who would say, yeah, that's probably worth investing in. You guys who are token holders, you've invested because you believe some, there's the 300 of you, the Gideon force. And I know you're frustrated. Trust me, not nearly as much as we are. I wish I had answers. See, I live in I say it's it's an exponential world, right? Of, pi, e, the transcendental numbers, exponential growth and the Fibonacci curve and everything else, calculus. What it really, people say, math and all this. No, calculus basically is rates of change, right? Derivative calculus, the first branch, and the second is integral calculus, like areas under a curve and volumes and all that stuff. But fundamentally, the core, in fact, derivatives and integrals are the reverse, right? The rate of change of something, there's some mathematical formulas behind it that are very elegant. And then when you inverse that function, you come back to integrate under the whole. It's pretty cool. It's very amazing. Isaac Newton and Leibniz and several others at the time. Newton was awesome. I think a really amazing guy. I've read all kinds of different books about and by and for him and whatever. Amazing stuff. A lot of his early work was in optics too, which is incredible. Light. Claude Monet said the subject of all work is light, and it really frequencies and all this. It's out there in the electromagnetic spectrum. It's fascinating. The world is incredible, and the sensors were even built with our eyes and everything. But calculus is about a rate of change. So, and I'll explain it this way. Now I'm on the topic because I was going to say I live in a linear world as an engineer, but it's not linear. Here's the thing: when you have a slope of something, just follow along with me and whatever, you can tune this part out. I don't, but if you have a curve that goes up and down, okay, you're increasing, you hit a plateau and come down. Simple enough. Well, your slope is steep upward here. It hits a flat spot, right? Where the slope is zero. It's perfectly flat. It has to reverse direction. At that one point when it reverses direction, what if that curve is the efficiency of something? Right? Then where would you want to operate? Right at the peak, right? Well, what goes on at the peak? That rate of change is zero, right? When the curve flattens out. It's called maxima and minima. And it's with differential calculus, it's becomes a mathematical model. With thermodynamics, optics, botany, power generation, everything else, it becomes a mindset where you set up an algorithm with all the variables involved on an engineering basis and solve to optimize it. That's the heart and soul of our patents. And it came about because early in my career, because you had to develop these things. I got heavily into instrumentation and control, where you're monitoring this, and we got paid for it all the time. We'd go into plants and tune the plant, make it run better, because we'd set up an algorithm to take the data, compute where the efficiency point was, and play with the control system so we hit that optimum point, give that report to the plant owners. And it was like me and some of my partners at the time said, why don't we do this for ourselves? And we can optimize this. And that was the inceptions of this work. I was in my 20s still. But so here's like half my life ago. And those ideas of optimizing how things work becomes a worldview. And you always look for ways to make it better. And that's the world I live in. And it's a mind blower because not in the finance world. Like you optimize something there and everyone just hates you. Like it's so negative and cynical. And I don't know where people, or my delivery's wrong and I need a partner. We need a CFO. We need somebody who's connected to the banking world and said, hey, Joe, it's okay if you get triple digit return on investment, even if all the other prior plants got low double digits. It's like they develop this mindset that you can't possibly do better. Well, we can't really earn that much return on our plants because we're used to doing this. And I go into that and say, you know what? Who cares, right? Don't you want to find the better way? Right? I mean, I do. And believe me, I get people calling, oh, this, that, and the other, and I punch holes in stuff all the time on technology side and say, that's not how that works. That's not going to happen, and punt it out. It's not like everything, oh yeah, wow, let's believe that one. You push back because you need to verify things. And so in that space, what happens? We end up doing plants that continue to get better, prove they're better, and use that algorithm, that mindset to find that optimum point. And that's just how we do it. We need somebody who looks at, call it financial engineering, whatever. Somebody we need to find, this is what anybody could do if you care to help with us and stuff. We need to find somebody alive today in the finance industry. It doesn't have to be like their money in their pocket. Okay. This is industry. These are organizations, corporations, family offices, venture capitalists, whatever. Somebody somewhere on earth today who has the ability in the $2 to $200 million range, because a lot of places it needs to be bigger. McKinley, 100 million or more. The utility sector is big. $1 billion type stuff. We've scaled down to do 20 million. That's minuscule in infrastructure. It's small. It really is. And then we get high returns on it. You 20 million investment, you're making several hundred million a year in returns. It's awesome. We know it's unheard of, and it's because we've stacked up multiple revenue streams. The waste from one part of the process becomes the feedstock to the other. So we've got that going on. We just need somebody in that space who's not afraid to make a lot of money doing something really good. That's the message of Concentric. Okay? That's the simple message. We are looking for an individual who's part of a group or organization or knows people without a bunch of runaround, not just a middleman who needs 77,000 hours of, tell me how it all works and all the dog and pony show. And then, we got one finance guy doing that, and you know who you are too, Ferris Bueller. It's just stupid. You go through over and over and over again the same exact thing, and 7 months later he's asking questions. It's like, you know what, we answered that question in the report we gave you for the initial funding back in September of last year. Oh, well, I was just knowing. He's just foaming at the mouth over stuff, and it's just, I didn't name his real name there, but it's just crazy. It's like they don't really know anybody. So I'm talking about a real bona fide person in the financial markets with some level of responsibility. And there's thousands of organizations worldwide, family offices, and from big black rocks down to whoever, who could just they waste they lose more money every day just flushing stuff down the toilet over whatever that we would need to catalyze this whole thing and go change life on earth as we know it. We just need to find one person with those connections who's not afraid to make a whole bunch of money doing really good things. And we think that's a pretty good ask and a pretty good deal. We still do. That's why I'm optimistic. Tonight, right now, yeah, I'd be crying right now how bad I really feel inside because I feel terrible. I mean, this is like, you're kidding me. It's like I go through all that hell to come out, come up with a game plan and a strategy. And like, hey, world, guess what? I just got refined by extreme fire and I got an answer for the world problems. And it's like, well, you better duck because here comes the rotten tomatoes and the bowling balls and the bat, and you're just getting pummeled. And I'm like, man, and we've had certain nations we were super committed to. And some of you know who you are that are just, it's unbelievable. And you're coming back to us now saying, yeah, we can help and do things. It's like, well, boy, you sure kind of threw us under the bus before, and still don't know why in some place. It's just weird. People just live with hate. It's amazing. And I guess I had to learn that, and I'm still learning it. But here, I'm going to read this to you. This is, and if you get a chance, this guy's, I really like him. His name's Jono White, Jonno. He's from Australia. Clarity is the name of their company. He does cool interview stuff. He got a hold of me a couple of years ago. He published this in December of 2023. This is right when we got restarted. Okay, I had just been out. This is my first kind of taste of freedom. He said, "Hey, we know about you and what's going on. What do you got? What's happening?" So he has this 7 questions on leadership with Garrett Smith. I just dropped the link in there. Chief Technology Officer at Concentric Industries. And I wrote the intro and he typed it up, I think, pretty much as is. I'll just read it. Smith is parlaying 4 decades of experience in award-winning energy, food, air, and water technologies and his 20-plus stewardship tech process patents to a new decentralized autonomous organization, right? The DAO, Concentric DAO, through its FCOM, engineer, finance, construct, operate, maintain business model, truly represents the future of energy, food, air, and water for the whole world. Thank you to the 2,000 leaders who've generously done the 7 questions on leadership. I hope Garrett's answers will encourage you in your leadership journey. Enjoy. Cheers, Jonno White. So there's these 7 questions, and I do like them. He's done a good job. What have you found most challenging as a leader? Is the question. My answer: having amazing solutions for the world's gravest challenges and pouring my heart and mind into giving them away, yet seemingly battling for efficacy. How to effectively get this amazing point across. Number 2, how did you become a leader? Can you please briefly tell the story? Vision, man with vision thrives. A vision for a better world where lack is annihilated by abundance, produced by our pure tech, is the ultimate why. Having those out front makes servant leadership a labor of love. Number 3, how do you structure your work days from waking up to going to sleep? I said, sound body plus sound mind is vital. I'm an Ironman endurance sport triathlete. I integrate fitness into my routine, which includes hydration and rest. I work hard and play hard. Now, just a little soundbite, my fitness has kind of gone in the tank this last year as I'm scrambling. I've spent every minute looking for money and just resting when I can. And that's okay. There's phases of life, but I want this one to be over too. 4, what's a recent leadership lesson you've learned for the first time or been reminded of? Unless I can elegantly convey my vision, it stays only with me. I often lie awake at night battling to find productive ways to give away what we have, real answers to the whole world's real questions. Number five, what's one book that has had a profound impact on your leadership so far? Can you please briefly tell the story of how that book impacted your leadership? And it didn't take me too long to answer this one. The Impossible Takes Longer by Vera Weissman, a memoir of the wife of Chaim Weissman, the venerable statesman and scientist. Reading firsthand stories about how durable optimism matters. I have real solutions to the world's real challenges in hunger and dehydration, poverty and pollution, disease and climate. By staying the course, even responding to this interview keeps me going and may be the missing link to open the key door. Number six, if you could only give one piece of advice to a young leader, what would you say to them? And this is my message even to you guys here, and we'll wrap up in a minute. One more question after this. Build key relationships early with lawyers and bankers. I made the mistake of assuming that people want to be part of solving key problems and that my engineering technologies would sell themselves. Instead, I was sabotaged and left alone without help. The world is full of treachery. Stay hopeful and optimistic, but also be vigilant. And I want to say that I love our team. I'm proud of everybody in Concentric, and I know a lot of you are with me. But the reality is, I have to face the deal that I'm not getting the job done. I need help. I said to one of the guys today, at some point, anybody in the world who's having problems, humble yourself and say you need help. Africa, South America, you've got exploited. There's been colonialism. Say you need help and find people willing to help. Learn to identify a helper. Concentric comes in willing to help. And these places have money. They're getting it. We're going to, what are you going to spend it on? Are you going to get real solutions, or are you just going to, buy some pickup trucks and drive around town trying to pick up garbage and say you just got burned before? I mean, let's make it real. And that's what, check our websites out and look at that. So stay hopeful and optimistic, and we are. And then the last one said, what is one meaningful story that comes to mind from your time as a leader so far? And this is where I said the story's about me. It's still being played out. And it's a screenplay that actually was a pretty good job of it. It's called Paradox. Uh, again, some people wrote it, and I was kind of hoping it'd be produced by now from who did it. I think they did a pretty good job. They got a hold of me for a few of the details, but it's Paradox. Things aren't always as they seem. And it's a thriller there. A group here in America, or there in America, put that together. So anyway, I had a link to that, and you can read that for fun. But that's a good story. It's a cool. Um, in fact, this won't tell the plot, but the writers of it did a really good job. They integrated it. I'll kind of close with this here, because in fact, one of them involves Gina Carano. I guess is fighting Ronda Rousey today or tomorrow or whatever. Um, I remember when Holly Holm kicked Ronda Rousey in the face in that MMA fight. That was a great victory right away. I was just watching some Muhammad Ali stuff. The in fact with Kinshasa, the Congo, when the rumble in the jungle was in Kinshasa, Zaire at the time it was called, and that Ali versus Foreman. So it's kind of just been interesting. Some of the fights and the mentality that goes into some of that. You just study success and what people are doing. But what I was going to say is that uh, in that storyline, what they did is they wove the story where it's a continuation of the Bourne Identity, where David Webb, the original, his real name, gets called in with it's basically an expose, and this is where it gets heavy with even what happened to us. Because here's the deal. I will end on this, and this will just keep the marker on my head. You know what? And I just say, bring it. This is part of that thing. It's like, just bring it. Like Ali would say, is that all you got, George? Right? He's telling Foreman, he's just rope a dope. He's taking the hits on the ropes. And then by the eighth round, Foreman, his arms are just free. He's been punching all night, and Ali gets him and he goes down. And it was like, how'd that happen? Because Ali learned to take the beating basically and then stay strong in himself. Well, that's kind of what's happened here, because, the the enemy meant this for evil, and we know the promises say it's going to work to the saving of many lives. And that's what we have in hand. When there's famine and drought, lack of water, lack of food, we have answers, people, that have been developed for a time like this. And so you have that Jason Bourne story, and what I'm saying, and this is where the gloves come off, because it's drug and human trafficking. If I'm an American, I love the United States. I remember 1976, right? This year will be 250-year anniversary, right? 2026. Lots changed, hasn't it? The Scottish professor Alexander Tyler said, all great democracies go through this fight for their independence, and then they hit a point of prosperity, and then they slowly dwindle back down to dependence. And America's kind of gone through that. And one of the big things going on in that country is drug and human trafficking. And in a really sick, twisted way, we got wrapped around the wheel because we were trying to develop work up in Vancouver, not BC, Washington, not DC, okay, back in the West Coast. And it's a big, convoluted hub for drug and human trafficking. And that's not, we're wanting to go back and fight against that stuff all over. And there's great organizations that do that. There's a big fight for that. If there's any human being who's ever wrongfully imprisoned, constrained, starved, tortured, whatever, we've all got a responsibility to fix it, right? A lot of, I mean, this, and especially when you can bring answers. And that's part of why we want to do what we want to do, to solve people's basic civilization problems so they can get on with the real aspects of life and not be vulnerable. Poverty and pollution are the root causes of so much evil in the world. So we're combating that, and some people don't want us to fight that. So you got Bourne coming in. The plot line's this, and this won't be the spoiler alert thing, but the Jason Bourne guy he turns out his sister has a daughter, and she gets abducted by some human traffickers. So she tracks him down, and he gets kind of involved. Look at it. Gina Carano, from her role in a movie called Haywire, same thing. Like, she gets called in by the CIA. Michael Douglas was in that movie to go check out what the Bourne guy Webb's doing, because they're all, who's the good guy, bad guy. They get that sorted, you'll see. And then in Ben Affleck, the guy with The Accountant, right? The great film about high functioning autism. And I think I saw The Accountant 2 also. Accountant 1 was awesome, better. They kind of just sort of stayed on the same path with his brother. It was cool. I mean, I like them both. But in this one, he gets called in to follow the money too. It's kind of an indictment on what really happened to Concentric, and it's a telling story. They got it right. I mean, they kind of paint a picture at the end where the character, who's me, his name in the book and movie, they call him John Owen, I think is his name. But the point that what happens is near the end of the story, there's good happens in the company Concentric. It's basically a movie screenplay about this organization, and they get out and they're kind of solving these problems again, in the West and in Europe and Africa or wherever. I forget the spots they pick, but it's pretty cool. And I think it would be a great movie. I certainly would watch it, and we'll use some funds to produce it if we have to. If it's one of those that whoever wrote it, I think they had Matthew McConaughey. Somebody said Mel Gibson and like Jim Caviezel. It would be a cool movie for them or something. So anyway, those are just some things out there. The links are out on it. It's a great story. There's going to be a great victory here because we've got a business plan that solves real problems for real people. And I do truly believe we are in a position where we're going to close on funding with someone we're talking to right now. I'm living the ups and downs of all that emotion. If you guys want direct answers, I'll try to do the best I can to answer. But, I'm just being totally transparent here. I don't know why we don't have funding. I've never done this many business plans, pitch decks, everything without closing something. I mean, we've closed billions in work. We've won awards all over the place. And, you go through it sometimes and you need round 8, 9, and 10 of the same documents, blah, 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 that you get used to that. It's why, if you could see in my computer and on the files, we got drives holding all this data. People need this and this. And in 14 seconds, I can get it to them because I've got a drive full of all the folders where we've already answered those same questions. It's just, we're always trying to be more efficient, and say it different, or answer this one and save that file. I mean, it's a washing machine effect. But if anybody anywhere, I'll end it on this. If you know anybody anywhere in the finance industry who wants to make a whole bunch of money on a long-term basis, doing really good things for people on the planet, you can earn millions of dollars by referring them to us. Let's go take care of it. Thanks a lot.